their desire to retire in 10 years or retire early. Hello, it is, I believe, January 11th. Today it's Wednesday, 2023, and it's Finance Nation here. So, I was thinking about, I was watching YouTube videos, and, the desire to retire early, particularly they were talking about in 10 years or less, and there's all these different avenues to do it. There's retiring early with dividends or businesses or the 4% rule or even real estate. So sometimes this requires healthy incomes or education, like there's a learning curve, or just dedication and discipline to make it. So there's this idea that it takes 10,000 hours to basically put in towards an effort towards reaching success, towards an effort or business or what have you. So that could be 8 years or so, full-time or what have you. And when you're putting that effort in, then you finally made it towards a blog or towards whatever you have. And that could be really, really awesome once you finally reach that momentum, that potential. So with that said, reaching that actual success, I was thinking of all the people that want to reach that desire. How do you, the different ways to do it, people going through discipline and desire, passion, and maybe the steps that they were talking about doing it, their processes, and it depends on what they are doing. If they are doing real estate, then it could be their credit if they're going to get in debt. It could be increasing their income as well. And it could also be, they're not going to increase their income, but they don't want to get into debt. They're going to leverage this idea where they hook two relationships together and they find a property for wholesale. They find the buyer and the seller, and they sell it. They sell it for a difference and pocket the difference. So the wholesaler might have it for like $80,000, but it's worth $160,000. So they might draw up a contract where they get to sell it for $100,000, and they have that agreement with the wholesaler. And there is a learning curve on that. They have the agreement on the wholesaler to sell it for $100,000 and find a buyer for them. And so the wholesaler will let them so the wholesaler will collect $80,000 and the buyer will buy it for $100,000 and fix it up and maybe sell it for $160,000. Meanwhile, that person that had it bought for $100,000 didn't take on any debt, but just leveraged that contract and got to pocket the difference of the $20,000. Now, there is a learning curve on that, and there's courses out there, and you got to be careful because some courses aren't going to be good and some courses aren't going to be bad. I don't have a course on it, but that's just information that's out there, what I told you, and you got to make sure that what you do with that is all legal. And when you're doing that, because there's some sticky tactics that people do. But I'm not a financial advisor, not a financial planner. That's just for just chit-chatting here. And so that was real estate. And then there's businesses, of course. There are all sorts of businesses people talk about online and side hustles. People working from home, and there's the gig economy, Fiverr, drawing up, building a website, learning how to build a website, taking a course to build a website, and then contracting your services to build a website, and then sending over the service to build the website. So that would be really, really awesome to get to do that from home. At first, building your rapport, getting your reputation up, starting from whatever lower rate that you would want to start out at. There is a guy on YouTube, he said he started really low and now he's built it up really high. Of course, that's more active income instead of passive income, but he's built it up really successfully, he says. And so there are other businesses that you could do, and that the big one online that everyone's raving about is, of course, drop shipping. But there is also passive income regarding royalties, writing a book, doing an audio book, writing a song, writing poetry, and getting royalties off of that. And maybe you're like, well, I'm not getting royalties off of that. Well, you build a reputation with your fan base to build royalties off of your typical royalty books or what have you. So you would build a reputation if you have 1,000 books. So there is, I believe her name is Amanda Hawking or something like that. I came across her on a YouTube video, I think it was, and they mentioned she had like 20, 30 books, and they only sold like maybe 3,000 to 5,000 copies a piece. But if there's 20, 30 books that sell 5,000 copies a piece and you got them for sale for $10 a piece, it ended up to where she ended up having like a few $1 million because she had written all these books over the years and she just put them up on Amazon and they sold. So, all that hard work over the years, and all of a sudden she becomes an overnight sensation, but she put in the work. So that is something to keep in consideration when you're doing those things. And of course, she gets that passive income from future royalties from that free advertisement. Oh, let me go find out who this person is. If you decide to buy her fiction writings or anything else of that matter, or any other books that she writes in the future, or any of her other fans, they come back to her books, and so on and so forth. So, but if you have a knack for marketing the cover of your book, or a knack for the titles, and so on and so forth, you could really do something. And that just doesn't mean for book writing. That could mean for a business, or an online business, or what have you, and so forth. And that goes for there are certifications. If you don't want to earn a higher education degree, that might cost more to maybe cash flow, or maybe get a student loan if you're not interested in that. Then you could possibly get a certification that could end up helping you compensate for more money. There are programs. There was a program that I came across, and it was like 100K jobs for women or something. And this woman had become, I don't know if it was a welder, I don't remember what the job was, but it was something that was lucrative. And so it was a labor job, but it was lucrative. And to go from that to something else, when you go through a certification job, and of course you might need to save up money if you're not going to get paid, or you're going to be compensated considerably less. But why would you give that up all of a sudden and go, oh, well, if I have to work for free or work for less, then I just give totally up. Yeah, just stick to that, mediocre $10 an hour, $15 an hour job, because you're giving up $50, $60 an hour potentially, and just give up the research. Makes total common sense. If you really want it, then maybe you will either save up, research it, look into it, draw up a plan, and set the goal, and keep that in mind. So, the other thing that the one that I think that has very little barrier to entry is maybe not in 10 years, but the doing the investing. So if you do your research, figure out what to invest in, or you get a financial advisor, however you do it, and you research from financial advisors and read the books on what to invest in, you can figure out a partial share plan. You can literally invest $1 at a time. And so that's really awesome. It really does it. And you can see the growth or alteration, lowering, and the dividends that you get paid for owning partial shares or owning a whole share, just for owning a share in a stock or mutual fund in your account. Just getting paid for having wealth. It's just like, when you get paid for having wealth, interest in your account, how the rich get richer, they get paid for having wealth. You get paid for having wealth of owning stock of a certain company, of owning, the biggest employer I think in the world right now is Walmart, for instance, right? So you got Walmart, you own a stock of Walmart, and so you would get however many dividends cents per share each quarter of the year, and you could reinvest those dividends, or you could have the cash paid towards your account. So that is, I think, really phenomenal. And throughout time, over the years, that could grow, whether it's a stock or mutual fund, the S&P 500, the total stock market index, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the NASDAQ, however you want to do it. Those are some of the main indexes. Then you could really choose to grow your funds. And so they were talking about retiring early. If you invest in one of those indexes, then they were really talking about the 4% rule, and then really growing those funds in the index funds to really high amounts. And then if your expenses, like if your income is only $25,000 a year, then your expenses might only be, after taxes and other stuff, it might only be $15,000, $18,000 a year. But if your income is $50,000 a year, your expenses could range as that low, or it could be, $30,000, $40,000 a year. So you would need much more. You might need closer to $1 million to save up if you're making $1 million a year, because you're used to spending on that lifestyle. But if you're making $25,000 a year, then there are people arguing that basically you could potentially save up, I guess maybe around $350,000, whatever 4%. I don't have a calculator in front of me, but if 350,000 is, that is $14,000. 4% of $350,000 is $14,000. So I said if you needed $15,000, you would need slightly more than $350,000. $350,000 to live off the 4% rule if you needed $15,000 a year. So maybe $400,000 a year. And 4 times 4 is $16,000 a year. And so if you had $400,000 sitting in your account, then the idea is you would be able to draw on that $16,000 on an annual basis. To draw down your account. And so that is a popular theory, to use the drawdown method. And the other methods are the dividend method, the business method, as I mentioned, the real estate method, and passive income methods. I'm pretty sure there are so many more that I'm not mentioning. And then some mix and match together, like, if you have a passive income method, that could be like owning your own business as well. So anyway, the excitement of just getting yourself together and really drawing down and getting yourself together and drawing down early. So subscribe if you enjoy yourself so far. Subscribe, follow, like the video. But it's so wonderful to the concept to get you to get motivated, to get yourself motivated and to go, okay, I'm going to set up an emergency fund. I'm going to draw down debt, pay off the debt. I'm going to build up an investment, whether you're going to do it simultaneously or whether you're going to do it step by step in some plan, then that is really awesome. But to keep in mind that it has been reported by several outlets that people with a financial plan actually have save something several times more, end up at the end of their career several times more than those without a financial plan. So even if you don't have a financial plan, if it's going to cost you money to get a financial plan, you feel like, or you don't like the financial plans you come across, you need to educate yourself and come up with a financial plan. And then not only come up with a financial plan, just sit there and have it in your brain. Actually put a pen to paper or go to the library if you don't have a computer at home. Put it in an Excel spreadsheet or a PowerPoint presentation. Put it together and then update it annually so that you have something that looks like you like, oh, I have something to strive for, that you could even reach or surpass. And then when you start getting closer to it, you're like, oh, I'm going to reach this in like a year. And you're like way far off from 50 or 60 years old, then you can adjust those numbers to be like, oh, I want this closer to like 10 million or 5 million in growth. And then you can adjust that to that amount and then be like, oh, wow, I'm really going to get there. And you can have long-term goals on your financial plan and short-term goals on your financial plan. You also map out things like potential emergencies and map out, if you have health scares, because stuff happens in the family and you've got to make sure you have health insurance, because health insurance, even though that 80-20 at the hospital doesn't always cover everything, that's a scary thought. If it's going to be like, oh, it's going to be $30,000 for the next 3 years, and then all that savings that you've saved your whole life just sort of gets depleted. It's really self-defeating. And so, I don't want to scare you, but I'm up to 18 minutes now. So just to think about a lot of things to go through and stuff like that. And don't get discouraged if it's already happened to you, where you've had to start over through a divorce or bankruptcy, but just, you can do it all over again. Run through some calculators and put it in there and what can happen in 10, 15, 20 years. And you will be so excited at what can happen in just 10 years, what $500 a month can do if it can get you to $100,000 based on your current asset amount. So, just see how you can go. Anyway, thank you so much. It's Finance Nation here. Rosette out.